right, here with Scott Conway. And
First round went really well. Only had one bogey on the front, played the course pretty clean. Our second round was not exactly what I wanted to do, but it wasn't bad. So I'm sitting one stroke back from MJ right now.
so you got your North Carolina hat there. Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Greenville, but this is my home course. This is where I started playing disc golf. This is where it all began for me.
Man, you sucker for pain, huh?
Yeah. Hey, it makes you resilient when you go to other places and the course is pretty much wide open.
Yeah, well, speaking of technical, tight woods and stuff, congratulations on your Buckhorn win.
Thank you.
Yeah, how'd that tournament go?
Went really well. I mean, throughout the entire tournament, I think I only had like maybe one or two bogeys the entire tournament. If you can pick up the must-get birdies out there, it's all right in front of you. It's just about consistency. My putting was working really well at Buckhorn. When you're hitting lines and making putts, I mean, that's really all it takes in tight courses.
So there's a lot of water out there, but those fairways, you just have to hit them. What's your go-to for these tight fairways like Castle Hayne and Buckhorn? What are you throwing rocks or what's in your bag?
I've got a mixed bag. It's got a little bit of everything. Some comets, some hexes, throwing the link, throwing a lot of berg and glitch, throwing a lot of Athenas and passions out here. Might throw the Volt like once or twice. But yeah, I mean, I've got a plethora of companies in the bag right now. You'll see me throw like a DD3 back on, I think it's 6, the one long hole that you need like a distance driver on. But yeah, I mean, I've got a completely open bag so I can throw whatever I want. It's actually kind of nice.
Yeah, whatever works.
Yeah.
So are you putting with the berg, or is that more of utility? Or?
It's just a utility disc. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it as a putter, as a one-speed. Putting with the link, like the Exo Hard links, and then like I've got a couple of their premium links there. I haven't learned everybody's plastic yet, so like, God, there's so many different discs out there, man. It's tough to learn all the new plastic and plastic types from different companies. It's a lot.
What do you think of these nice new baskets they got installed?
Fantastic, man. I started putting on the Mach 3s that we had here originally. I mean, I liked them because that's what I learned how to play disc golf on, but the 28 chains are much nicer. They catch much better.
Yeah, so MJ's got one stroke ahead of you. What's it going to take to get past the score there?
Man, I try not to think about that aspect of him being like a stroke ahead of me, or even if I happen to be in the lead, I'm just going to go out and play some disc golf and see what happens.
Well, best of luck to you. Thanks for coming out and take it down, man.
Thanks.
Welcome to the 2023 Azalea Open presented by Cape Fear Games. Big shout out to Sublime Flight for capturing yet another Azalea Open on camera for all of y'all. It is myself, Philip Bartholomew, with
Mr. Gage Stiles.
How are you doing, Mr. Gage Stiles?
I'm the only one that's allowed to call myself Mr., but I'm doing great. Ready to watch some good disc golf.
Awesome. So we're here at Castle Hayne Disc Golf Course, a beautiful course that is kept up by the new Hanover Disc Golf Club. Huge shout out to them. We have 4 awesome players here today. We have Michael Johansen, Scott Conway, John Blackburn, and Michael Jordt.
Battle of 2 MP40 guys and 2 young guns trying to take the reins.
So we have a legendary player here, Michael Johansen. He's going to tee off first. I'm assuming he's going with some type of driver. This is not necessarily the longest hole, but it is very technical. You'd like to get down there, and that is what I would consider to be down there.
That's as parked as you can get it.
Yep, this hole is very challenging due to the nature of the shot shape you have to throw. You can't fade off left, you can't push too far right, and it's really hard to throw straight. So Scott, once again, going with some sort of 7 to 10 speed driver, I assume.
And that looked like the perfect shot where you want to kind of force it over to the right, which is the bigger gap, and then make sure you get back left. So you kind of want that like tight S flight out of your disc.
Absolutely. Making sure that you get on the right side of the fairway at the beginning keeps you out of trouble early. It just puts you into a little trouble later on down the fairway. There's a creek. It is casual down the middle, but to where we're fading off, if we were to continue fading way left from there, it could potentially go out of bounds. And I was just noticing this. I think that might be Kevin Jones's doppelganger. Very similar form.
We'll see if he jump putts from where he landed, just to make sure.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Oh,
and
that's not where you want to be.
That would be the only trouble of turning it too much off the tee, is taking that glance, which actually turned out to be almost okay.
Skip shot off the road. Wrong way. That was definitely.
But this was a huge break, I think, for Jordt here. He pretty much had a wide open upshot there, and I believe this is Kevin Jones.
Yeah.
Sorry, John. You will be referred to as Kevin for the rest of the round now. Shouldn't have jump putted. Scott for birdie, and it looks like he may be jump putting just outside the circle here.
Clean.
Scott is an excellent putter. I think that might be one of the things that is most standing out in his game, other than his ability to hit tight gaps. Throwing for distance definitely would not be Scott's strong suit, but hitting tight gaps and making putts is. And I guess we could say the same for MJ.
Yeah, both of them getting birdies on this tough hole one, because when I looked at scores, those were the only 2 birdies for MPO, so that was impressive.
Wow, yeah, and Michael Johansen keeps his 1-stroke lead going into hole 2. This is a pretty short and technical hole. If you can just throw a hyzer with a putter or a mid-range, you can pretty much get down there no problem. There's one tree right there that you gotta miss. And
I feel like if that tree was missing, it would make it automatic 2, but it's just in the perfect placement where you don't feel comfortable throwing the hyzer and the flip ups too touchy, so they did a good job growing that tree however many years ago it was.
Yeah, we would like to give a huge shout out to the tree that makes everyone scared. There is OB going down the right side here as well. So I have seen many people kick off of that tree and immediately go right straight into the out of bounds. That out of bounds wraps all the way around the basket. It is significantly past the basket, which there is a big drop off. We may see that here as we get up closer to the basket. This umbrella out here is going to foreshadow what the rest of the round is going to look like very shortly. It did not rain as bad on day 1, but on day 2, I'm just going to say we got a little wet.
And that was a good putt because, as you mentioned, there was a drop off probably 10 feet beyond the basket, which you can't see from this angle. Well, from here you can. So MJ looking like he was probably 30, 35, comfortable putt for both of them.
Yeah, and just an FYI, these 2 guys, probably 2 guys you don't want to be battling with at your local tournament. Definitely some highly experienced disc golfers. MJ, obviously with a very notable name, but Scott Conway in the past 3 years has beaten MJ at many tournaments, big A tiers in Michigan. He is no joke.
As we go to hole 3, 340, the hard thing about this one is getting the distance and getting left enough. So it's a common theme on this course where you need to get left or right, and the only way to do that is throw it high enough in the air, but with as many trees you can get bad tree kicks.
I'd like to point out Scott's shoes real quick. He's wearing Vans All-Terrains. I would say should be referred to as Vans Some Terrains, because it did not work out for him on this slippery tee pad. Invest in some Merrells, Scott. Back to what you're saying about how challenging this hole is to push it straight and left. Kind of, yeah, straight and left. That's the opposite of each other, right?
But you described it perfectly. That's exactly what you have to do.
There is a gap down the right side. It's kind of, as most people refer to as a back door. You can push through that gap. It would be the best way to park it. If you try to go down the middle gap, you're going to end up right about here. where John is lining up a jump putt once again. It's basically going to be short or left, hence the long straight and left that you really need.
And it is common to, if you feel like you threw a good shot, to still get up there and just have a 45-footer. And then it's just who can make those to get the birdies.
Michael Jordt can.
Yep.
Michael Jordt, he is out of New Bern, North Carolina, plays at the Glen Burnie course quite a bit, and he has made a name for himself there, taking that tournament down, I believe, once or twice, and beating the likes of Scott Conway, Barry Schultz, some guy named Philip Bartholomew, and probably Gage.
It was close.
I'm going to refer for the rest of this round as Michael Jordt as the slingshot. His forehand is incredible. He throws with tons of accuracy and power with seemingly no effort. He just winds up his slingshot and he lets it rip.
When I am playing with him, I do wonder how he can get that to 400 feet, but it's there every time.
Slingshot engaged. This is a particularly challenging hole, especially in the rain. It's a par 4. What's the distance here, Gage?
419. So I do think it's reachable, but the safe thing, especially with that gap, is just split it in half, throw a 200-foot shot, and then throw a 200-foot shot.
What was it that you were saying earlier about having to go straight and right at the same time? This is a common theme, like you were saying. This course is not particularly long. It's 7,000 feet. But it is particularly challenging in a way that you have to be able to push 400 feet straight and also right in the last 100 feet, like you see Scott doing here.
I do find myself on most courses being able to get away with only throwing, let's just say 10 disc, but playing this course, you'll need the understable stuff and overstable stuff. Like, you'll need the whole array of discs to be able to attack this course.
Absolutely. And MJ catching some trees on the way into this green. It's a heavily guarded green depending on where you land. If you're too far left on this shot down the fairway, you're going to have a hard time getting up there. But if you're actually more right on the fairway, it opens up a hyzer forehand or a slight flex shot in. It just keeps you out of danger of the trees on the way in. MJ not taking his time there. Nor is he ever. He's ready to go always. And Scott is going to do the pro play, borrow a putter.
Don't get yours wet in the rain.
Yeah, that was. Oh, wow. This has got to be illegal. Wow, Michael Jordt, selfless slingshot, engaged. Alrighty. Looks like Scott's going to get one of those strokes back to down 1 on MJ. Going into hole 4 here. What do we got distance here, Gage?
I guess I'm the measure man. This one's 283. It's slightly uphill. I don't think either one of those shots started out right enough, but it's probably an overstable mid that you want to force on. That's too much.
You shouldn't have said forced right when he threw. I think that might have pulled him a little bit too far right. But no, back to your saying.
I was quiet for MJ's shot, and it didn't have enough finish on it, but it actually hit the gap, so that's good.
I think MJ definitely threw the right shape. The height is what you want to be able to get the distance stable back out. MJ might actually be up there, but definitely had the right shape on the shot, no doubt.
As the rain's starting to pick up, it seems like you don't want to be scrambling in the rain. You want the easiest par or a look for birdie.
Now, Gage, what is your... Now, look at this. He got all the way up there. He just didn't have the height on it to get it back to the left, but still very good. What is your strategy in the rain when it comes to playing slow or fast? What do you like to do?
I think I'm on the tee shot and up shots. I'm like adamant about getting my thumb dry and being aware of not touching the brim of my hat with my fingers and trying to keep that dry. But on the putting green, I actually prefer just to keep the disc wet so I don't have too much grip all of a sudden. And so On the drives, I like to dry it off, but on the putts, I like to keep it as is.
I totally agree with all of that. I endorse keeping the thumb dry as well as having a wet putter. You don't want to have too much tack on the putt, for my putt at least.
As KJ gets lucky through there, but
That's my gap. No, so this is another common theme here. It's 505 feet, but you need to throw about a 350 to 370 foot shot. Maybe a little bit further than Scott just threw, but that would be fine for Scott. It just will open up a straighter shot into your second shot, where Scott's still going to have to work his way around that corner just a little bit, I believe.
But I think this hole is one where even if you keep it clean, if you don't get far enough, you still can't get around, or you'll have to throw a forehand roller, skip shot, big high ante. So I think for this hole, it does pay to get aggressive off the tee rather than later on there's holes where it just pays to lay up and then go for it.
Let's watch this real quick. This is a big thing. Do you see where he's planting his foot? Most people would say, he's foot faulting, but technically where his foot was placed directly to the pin, down the fairway, it would technically be a foot fault, but he is directing his shot, lining up his shot to the pin, not the fairway. So a really, really good thing to notice and know your whereabouts on the course so that you don't get caught on a sneaky foot fault.
And there you go. Or we saw Scott's drive before where it landed. He still wasn't in position to aim at the basket, so he had to throw extremely high and hyzer forehand. And then Jordt with the forehand roller. And that's the only way to get around the corner unless your drive is far enough.
Yeah, I really agree with you there, Gage, on being aggressive off the tee and making your way. You have to throw at a minimum of 350, which doesn't sound that far, but when you're hitting a tight gap like that on a risky fairway, it's a little bit of a crunch. And you're probably not going to be doing it with a distance driver, more or less a fairway 7-8 speed. So you do have to throw it pretty far. I think I was throwing a 10 speed. But as a former good putt by Andrew there, former Discraft professional, you know, we didn't really have 7 speeds. It was a Buzz or an Undertaker.
So if your game plan is to be aggressive on that hole and it starts to rain right when you step up to the tee pad, are you changing your play, or are you still sticking with your game plan there?
Yeah, I think I would not divert from the game plan just because that hole punishes short shots. I have thrown a Buzz off that tee, but I've just learned, and if it were raining, I would just do what I was going to do faster.
Oh yeah.
Keep myself dry and take a rip. This is hole 7. It's a particularly challenging hole due to the nature of how straight you have to go and then right. No, but the way it fades down this hill, it plays almost perfectly for a forehand if you can just keep it off that left side edge. You can see how his shot would have faded right down to that tee, or to that pin, if the trees weren't there. MJ here, he got way up the fairway. He threw a left-handed forehand, actually. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see that. No, but I'm sure he threw a backhand comment of some sort. Scott, believe it or not, had a pitching background before disc golf, and he throws beautiful thumbers, as you can see there.
Jordt with his birdie putt, a little bit high.
This is a challenging green. You can't really tell the grade of the hill here, but it is very steep, especially right behind the basket. And there is a creek down there to the right in that vegetation. If you hit and roll, or just hit on hyzer on that hillside and roll, you could be in some big trouble. And
there's enough roots where even the layup's not safe. If you try and actually lay up to the ground, hit one of those roots and pop up. So I feel like you just have to be confident either way with what your game plan is.
Yeah, and I think I like the forehand where you actually get down to the right and then get to putt back up the hill versus, not to say that the backhand couldn't do that as well, but it's much more challenging. I would say this is the hardest hole on the course. Initially, off the tee, we are looking at a huge, high hyzer. Basically, the disc goes nowhere.
This is another one where the only shot you can throw is 20 feet up in the air, and if you kick a tree, there's the creek on the right, which is OB. You don't want to be left. It's a placement shot, but you're throwing it 20 feet in the air. So to start off on this par 5,
you're maybe getting tops 200 feet, and that's a smash.
Yeah.
I was historically known for throwing some of the farthest drives really ever seen on this hole, because I had this understable Comet that as it was coming around the corner, it was flipping up. Unfortunately, I got a bogey on this hole every time after that, as you guys will see here. Great drives, terrible upshots.
The perfect landing zone is kind of on a slight uphill with a lot of roots, so you can't really get a normal run up to hit this 400-foot tunnel where you need your second shot to land.
Yeah, and not only the uphill, but you can see MJ right near those trees. That is really where a lot of discs seem to filter into. Being right in front of that is a smash, and I say smash as in is a pretty far up there for how high you're throwing. It's definitely not a smash. So this is a par 5. It seems like it should be a very straightforward par 5. You throw one shot around the corner, one shot up to where Scott's going right here. You're not trying to push it too far right. He drifted a little bit there. I'm just going to say that that's a circumstance of having a wet hand and sometimes feeling the need to over grip it, and then you realize you didn't need to do that.
And I think maybe in drier conditions where both Scott's and Jordt's drive landed, you can be a little more aggressive, but I think with it only being 700 feet, I think in the rain you should just play for a birdie, even with how short the hole is.
Yeah, and you can see how Scott, when he got over there to the right, he almost found some serious trouble.
Nice, Scott.
One thing you notice about Scott's game, he doesn't really have a forehand. He does throw thumbers occasionally, but
Well, look who's throwing right now.
Exactly, him and MJ, and they're both leading the tournament. Well, one of them is leading, but they're both they're 1 and 2 in the tournament, and it's wild to see that on a course like this, with players like Blake Poland and Michael Jordt that are here, and a guy like Philip Bartholomew. Now that we're looking at that old live scoring, at one point I wasn't doing so bad.
This is a good balance between playing golf and hitting your landing zones and hitting those 400-foot power shots. It's a real nice balance of the two.
Agreed. And here we're on hole 9. Should you tell him or should I tell him? It's basically you need to go straight and right all at the same time.
Yeah.
There's one mandatory here.
Oof.
And he found the tree, I believe, behind the mandatory.
Correct. This one you're just taking your most understable putter and just throwing it straight in there, and hopefully it does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, there's one gap you're punching out of, and it is there. It's just not that you can see right now. This is one of the ones where you'd want to, if you're first time here, you're going to want to walk up the fairway and take a look. Jordt is playing the harder play here. Obviously, a forehand doesn't push out as much, but when you engage the slingshot like Jordt does, somehow it does just seem to push right on that spike hyzer.
And I think that's going to get you to the opening, but from there you're just having a 40-foot putt, whereas the backhand's actually going to drift, or has the possibility of drifting to the right.
Yeah.
To get to the left.
As you can see here, this is where we started to get a little bit wet. It probably stayed like this for, I can't remember how long, but a few holes at least. Just pretty miserable to play disc golf in this weather, and I don't think there's very many good strategies to it, other than...
Hope you're on the easier part of it. Well, actually, no, because then you won't be able to get those birdies.
Exactly. Just
Nice one, yeah.
Great putt by Jordt. We've got spectators that have been here all weekend, rain or shine, literally. standing right here on hole 9, waiting to see some birdies.
Oh,
MJ, you know, he didn't want to get him too excited, of course. He just laid that one up. We got John here.
We got
He
John.
stabs it right in the middle with a great applause.
Showing some love to the fans.
And that was a glitch birdie. That's awesome. Oh, wow. Oh, telling MJ he putted with a glitch. All right. Well, we really appreciate everyone for tuning in to Sublime Flight for the 2023 Azalea Open, sponsored by Cape Fear Games. Make sure that you check us out and subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. And stay tuned for the back 9. It'll be myself and
Mr. Gage Stiles. Definitely be a battle you won't want to miss.